Hi there, right, in this video I'm going to show you how to remove and replace an Octalink bottom bracket. On this case it's a specialised rock copper mountain bike. There are only 4 tools you need and I'll introduce them as we go along. So the first one here is an 8mm hex key. So you use this to remove the crank bolt from the middle of the crank arm here. Now normally you'd probably want to have the bike on the ground to do this because you get a lot more leverage pushing against the pedal without the wheel wanting to turn, but in this case I've already removed this once to try it out, so it's actually fairly easy. So this undoes in the normal anti-clockwise direction, so we'll take that bolt out first, and I'll just do exactly the same on the far side, get those off. And for some reason on this, the non-drive side's got this little washer on it. I don't know whether that really matters, but I'll leave it on there anyway. Once you get that off, what you need to use is something called a crank puller to push against the inside of the bottom bracket and basically force the crank off, because they get wedged on very, very tight once you've been pedaling on it for a few thousand miles. So this is a crank puller, and basically it's made up of 2 threaded bits. The first one locks into here, and then the second one pushes this rod forward to do that job I just described. And this goes in the normal way. And then you screw this piece in. 8mm hex key again, but this time you're actually going clockwise to tighten it up because you want to push that through, and as you do that, crank and the chain rings slowly come the other way. Now I've left the chain on the middle ring here just because it makes it a little bit easier to put on afterwards, but actually it's sometimes a good idea to put it on the large one just to protect your fingers from that when you're really trying to get a lot of welly behind removing those crank bolts. So that's come off far enough to come off, and we'll need that again for the other side. So you just undo it. Sometimes they get a little bit jammed in the middle. And do the same to that other crank arm off. And that gives you access to the actual bottom bracket, which these silver bits around the outside are the bit you need to undo from the actual shell itself. And this is where the threading starts to go a bit funny. So another special tool. All these different types of bottom brackets have their own tools, but this one is a 20 spline bottom bracket tool, and this one's made by X Tools. Obviously you can get others. Now on the drive side with these, they're pretty shallow, they don't get to go in very far, and this one's already been loosened up a bit. But when you've got one that's really wedged on, it does take quite a bit of force to hold it in place while you're trying to turn it with the wrench. So this is the 4th and last tool that we actually need. So you need to sort of press it while you hold on to the frame, and then on the drive side for these, it's reverse threaded, so you need to do it clockwise to get it out. So okay, so there you go. Even with one that's been loosened recently, that was quite tough. Get the wrench out of the way, just quickly undo that. That's done. And by checking this, So this old one, I've actually cleaned up quite a bit. They usually come out a lot more disgusting than this. That 118mm is the width of the entire thing, and the 68mm there is the width of the shell itself. So these come in different sizes. You've got to make sure you get the right one. And I'll just remove the casing on the other side. Really, this bit on the back here is just a guide. It doesn't do anything serious with the bearings or anything. The bearings are all integrated into that piece I just took out. This thing just sort of holds it in place so it doesn't shift around. So we'll be replacing that as well. Okay, so this is the replacement 11868. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on the drive side thread here, so it'll make life a bit easier for somebody one day when they need to take it off again. I seem to have angered the bicycle gods, sorry about that. Okay, so put this side in first, because this side you absolutely have to make sure is completely locked in place. The guide on the other side may not quite go in as far, but this one has to, so that the chain rings are all aligned properly with the derailleur. So this one gets first dibs. Remember, it's reverse threaded, so get it lined up properly. Now this will tighten itself as you pedal, so I'll give it a reasonable amount of force, but not going to go crazy. Same story with the new guide on the non-drive side. Except of course that's normal clockwise threaded, so it goes the other way. And there's a bit more depth to this one, so the tool actually locks in a lot more easily. If the video suddenly goes black, send a fire engine. Okay, so on that far side, you can see there, you might be able to see there's just a tiny little gap. But that's okay, as long as this side is completely snug up against the shell. Then the crank goes back on. Now, don't forget to hook the chain back in here. You can just about get it back on afterwards, but otherwise you're going to leave it trapped to the wrong side of the crank and you've got to get it round the pedal arm and everything else, it's really not worth the hassle. Okay, needs a little bit of jiggling to get it properly into place. There we go. Get those 8 things aligned properly. And then our crank bolt goes back in. And you need to get this nice and tight, because this is what pushes the crank properly onto the spindle, and make sure that everything's lined up properly. Okay, that should do it. And then obviously you want the pedals opposite each other. Same thing on the front side. As I say, these are really easier to do, easier to tighten up as well when the bike's on the ground. I'll just leave it wobbling around in the stand for now. Okay, that should be so right. Thanks for watching.